Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. So in this video we are going to be reviewing Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, which I actually really enjoyed. I really don't understand all of the hate that this movie gets. It's actually a really cool movie. You know, they definitely learnt the lessons from the Phantom Menace and made it less about all the boring politic trade federation type stuff and really made it a lot more of a fun movie. You know, they have a lot of the criticism that this movie gets is because of the Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman romance between Anakin and Padme. But if you think about it, this really is the first time that these two characters are properly kind of seeing each other in like a romantic sense. And obviously in episode 3, the big downfall of the Anakin Skywalker character into Darth Vader is predominantly because of the Natalie Portman character Padme. So they really had to make it believable. So I feel like that's why they did what they did with this film. But you know, that being said, it does have all of the brilliant aspects that make a Star Wars movie with loads of spaceship scenes, loads of cool chase sequences, loads of cool battle sequences, really new innovative stuff, all the lightsaber things. You know, it was a really cool movie. I feel like the casting of this film was really good as well. I know that's a bit of a debate as well, but in my opinion, I thought the casting was really good, the characters are cool, the visuals are cool, and I really loved Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. I feel like their two relationship worked really well in terms of having respect for each other, in terms of having really cool Jedi Master and Jedi Padawan kind of aspects to their relationship. You know, the movie isn't perfect. Definitely some bits could have been better than others, but I just feel like overall, Attack of the Clones is a pretty decent Star Wars entry. So I really enjoyed the storyline of Attack of the Clones, as I feel like they learned their lessons from episode 1 and made it a hell of a lot less about all of the boring Trade Federation politics type storylines, and instead focus on their core 3 characters in this film, namely Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Padme. And I love character-driven movies, and I feel like Attack of the Clones really did do that front and center as it pushed these characters right to the front and really explored all of them, explored all of their relationships with one another, and really brought these characters to life. As we all know what's going to happen in episode 3 with the downfall of the Anakin Skywalker in a very destructive way. And for that to kind of have impact on the audience, you really have to set up these relationships so that it means more and that it's kind of really pulling at your heartstrings. And I feel like episode 2 did that really well in terms of building the Anakin Skywalker and Padme relationship, but equally building the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker relationship as well. I've said in loads of my other Star Wars review videos that I feel like these two characters are the best two characters that the whole Star Wars franchise has created, and I just feel like Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor really worked so well together in kind of making you believe the relationship between these two characters, and so that it means a lot more when everything happens in episode 3. And on that note, this film kind of reintroduces the Anakin Skywalker character, as this time it's played by Hayden Christensen, who is 10 years older than when we last saw him in episode 1. I know Hayden gets a lot of criticism for his wooden performances as Anakin, which at some points is true. It is a little bit wooden at some points. But that being said, I feel like he really embodies the kind of moody, rebellious side of this character. And for those reasons, I feel like his performance is actually pretty decent. And obviously everything that he goes through with his mother in this movie is really cool as well. So I just feel like, you know, the Anakin Skywalker character was done really well. And going back to his relationship with Obi-Wan, I feel like, you know, the two actors bounce off each other really well, and the characters as a result bounce off each other really well in terms of having their bromance with both of the different characters, in terms of having the master-apprentice kind of relationship as well, in terms of having all the brilliant one-liners that these two characters have, and also the fact that you can kind of see the fact that they're kind of coming at things from different perspectives, which inevitably is going to make them clash. So I feel like, you know, episode 2 kind of seeded everything really well for what is to come in future episodes. So one of the many things that I love about Star Wars films is that they have very grand and epic opening sequences, and I feel like Attack of the Clones had a very strong opening sequence, especially with the fact that they tried something a little bit different and was really unique actually in what they did with their particular opening. So for example, the other opening sequences in the other Star Wars films typically involve like X-fighter jets and loads of spaceships kind of shooting each other in space, whereas in Attack of the Clones they kind of stripped that back a little bit, focused on characters and still had a bit of an epic opening sequence in the sense that they had flying cars going through a city and a bit of a chase sequence while still really developing the characters and the relationships that they have within themselves. So I feel like, from that point of view, it was a really intense opening sequence. Really nice that they tried something a little bit different and really set up the movie for what was to come. The movie then kind of splits into two different sequences, one with Obi-Wan Kenobi and one with Anakin Skywalker. So let's look at the Obi-Wan Kenobi one first. So this is a really traditional Star Wars storyline in the sense that he's traveling the galaxy trying to find the bounty hunter that tried to kill Padme, and in doing so he kind of finds out about hidden planets and has brilliant chase sequences within himself and kind of going through meteorite shafts and finding out about the clone army and really exploring more about the mythology that's kind of happening within the galaxy. Has kind of the battle sequences as well with Jango Fett, which is Boba Fett's father. Brilliant one-liners by Obi-Wan Kenobi. I feel like Obi-Wan Kenobi's character by Ewan McGregor's performance in all three of the prequel films was just so brilliant. I feel like this character was just so unique, so iconic, so funny. And Ewan McGregor's performance with this battle with Jango Fett on multiple occasions actually was just so brilliant, and both from a visual aesthetic point of view as well as from a hilarity point of view, because Ewan McGregor's lines were just so funny. So I just feel like, the Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of kept the traditional aspects of a Star Wars film intact. Obviously his storyline then kind of collides with Anakin Skywalker's later, and then it continues being more of a typical Star Wars storyline. And on that point, let's look at what happens with Anakin Skywalker in this film. So in the beginning, he needs to protect Padme, so he goes to loads of beautiful, amazing locations with Padme, and their relationship kind of gets them to become more closer and closer, which makes sense, as in episode 1, they didn't really share any romantic scenes. If anything, I felt like Anakin was closer to Keira Knightley's character, who was a bit of a decoy for Padme. So, they really had to set up the relationship between these two different characters. And I think it was nice as well that they were trying something a little bit different. As I said, went to beautiful, exotic locations. So from a visual point of view, it looked absolutely incredible. So, their storyline in the beginning, at least, is about their kind of romantic relationship in terms of them two getting closer together. But then at the same time, you get to see the darker side of the Anakin Skywalker character when he gets nightmares about what's happening to his mother. So they go back to Tatooine, and then some really heartbreaking scenes happen with Anakin Skywalker and his mother, which is really, really heart-wrenching. I wish they kind of pushed that a little bit more as well, so that you can really see the emotive side of what happened with the Anakin Skywalker character and with his mother, because I feel like they skipped past a little bit of his kind of degradation with his particular character. So it would have been nice if they kind of explored that a little bit more. But what you do see, you kind of do understand how he's becoming closer to his darker side. It's never been revealed in any of the movies, but I feel like because Emperor Palpatine was such a big figure in influencing the fall of the Anakin Skywalker character to the dark side, I have a sneaky suspicion that Palpatine and Count Dooku were behind what happened with the Sandmen and Anakin Skywalker's mother's character. I just feel like they had to have played some sort of a part in what happened to her, and inevitably what happened to Anakin Skywalker's character as a result. So I know it's never been revealed, but I've always had a bit of a feeling that Palpatine was behind that, as well as all of the other stuff that he manipulated with the Anakin Skywalker unfortunate storyline. The two story streams then combine into one, with Anakin Skywalker and Padme trying to save Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then a series of sequences just happen that are just absolutely brilliant. So the first one is Anakin Skywalker and Padme being on a bit of a conveyor belt with R2-D2 and C-3PO, and loads of machines being created and themselves having to try to save themselves throughout this. They then get captured and they are finally reunited with Obi-Wan Kenobi and loads of other different creatures in a bit of a gladiator battle, which they have to try to save themselves in, and the banter between all the different characters is really interesting here. Then something happens which has never really happened in any of the other Star Wars films, which is all of the Jedis are in one location, all of them having their different lightsaber battles, and it's the Jedi army, the clone army, against the Druid army, which is just a massive ensemble sequence. And like I said before, you've never had so many Jedi condensed in one location. It's usually just one or two, max three, kind of in one place. And in this sequence, there's just loads of them kind of having all the different battles. Mace Windu and Count Dooku are having their own little battle. It's a really, really cool sequence. We then have a bit of a space sequence, and then a more intimate sequence with battles with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker against Count Dooku. Here, Anakin Skywalker's dark side again gets the better of him, which leads to, you know, a bit of a fatality happening. And then a brilliant sequence, which, you know, no one was expecting, but everyone really wanted to see, which was just absolutely brilliant, which was Count Dooku and Yoda having a bit of a battle sequence, which is just super, super unique. So, you know, all in all, I just feel like the storyline for Attack of the Clones is actually really, really decent. And I feel like, you know, this film needs to get a bit more credit because it just did such real innovative stuff. And it was just a really, really interesting storyline from start to finish for this film. From a characters and actors point of view, I honestly feel like Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones had some of the best cast out of all of the Star Wars franchise movies. They had, you know, Hayden Christensen, which was a brilliant choice for Anakin Skywalker. I know he gets a lot of hate for his wooden performances, and in some places it is quite wooden, but I just feel like, you know, that just really shows the darker side to his character, the fact that he's really impatient, the fact that he's really moody, the fact that he's really rebellious. So I feel like those aspects of his character were really, really good. But equally, you know, he has the romantic side to his relationship with Padme. He's got the cheeky banter with Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi's character. He's got that respect for him. So I just feel like, you know, it is a pretty rounded character, and I feel like Hayden Christensen's performance in this film was really, really decent as well, especially the scenes with his mother as well, and all of the heartbreaking scenes that happen over there. So that was a really, really cool choice for Anakin Skywalker. Similarly, Ewan McGregor was a brilliant choice for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Such killer one-liners in this film, and he really has that heart that a Jedi needs in terms of having the resilience and self-belief in terms of what the Jedi stand for. And like I said, he's just got such brilliant one-liners in this film as well, such as, you know, when he goes, "Hello there," and when he says in the chase sequence right in the beginning, like, "Oh, I hate it when he does that." And when Anakin Skywalker and Padme say, you know, "We're here to rescue you," while they're all being tied up, he's like, "Okay, good job." And then, you know, when he says, "I hate it when he does that," when he jumps out of the plane. And also we have a foreshadowing scene when he says, "Why do I get the feeling that you're going to be the end of me?" So I just feel like, you know, Ewan McGregor just had some killer one-liners. The way he communicated it was really, really cool as well. And especially with the fight with Jango Fett when he goes, "Oh God, this is not good." So I just feel like, you know, there's just such brilliant one-liners, and Ewan McGregor just portrayed the Obi-Wan Kenobi character so well. And like I said multiple times in loads of different videos, I do feel like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker are two of the strongest characters in the entire franchise, and in this movie you really got to see how they became the characters that they inevitably did become in the future. So it was really, really interesting from that point of view. Natalie Portman played Padme, and I feel like her character was a little bit one-dimensional. I feel like, you know, the political side of her character got a lot of criticism in episode 1, so they obviously stripped back that side of her character, and instead she played a bit more of a love interest to the Anakin Skywalker character. But, you know, that being said, she does have a very self-righteous view on things, very similar-minded to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I feel like because of that you could really see the conflict that was happening between Padme and Anakin Skywalker. We then have Palpatine, who is the puppet master, kind of manipulating and controlling everything. This character really came into his own in episode 3, but in episode 2 you can kind of see him in the background kind of controlling everything. Count Dooku representing a fallen Jedi joining the dark side. I feel like his lightsaber battle sequences were a little bit weak, but, you know, that being said, the character was really, really interesting. Mace Windu, again, you know, in episode 1 didn't really do that much, but in episode 2 kind of had some lightsaber battles. You can kind of see the conflict as well between him and the Count Dooku character, which is really, really interesting. Yoda was absolutely brilliant. You know, thus far what we were seeing of him is kind of being a figure that just kind of gives wisdom and stuff, and he did that in this episode as well, but really got a lot more involved in all of the battle sequences and kind of the storyline as well, in terms of having his different views on things, which is really, really cool. C-3PO and R2-D2 kind of being nice from the continuation point of view with all of the different episodes. They're the two characters that have been in every single episode, which is really interesting as well. C-3PO, I feel like they kind of forced his humour in this film. It wasn't as naturally funny as he is in other episodes. And the final character that I wanted to talk about is Jango Fett and Boba Fett. So it's really interesting how they kind of introduced the future of what's going to happen with Boba Fett's character, and a little bit of how he became that character, and his clone father Jango Fett, and the misery that he had to kind of go through with his clone father. So I feel like that was a really interesting story arc. And seeing how much of a formidable force Jango Fett was, and then the misery that his son Boba Fett then has to kind of go through in terms of what happens to Jango Fett's character. I feel like the casting choice for Boba Fett could have been a bit better, but you know, that being said, all in all, Boba Fett aside, all of the characters and the actors in this film did a brilliant job. From a visuals point of view, I feel like Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones is a really solid entry. It's got all of the great Star Wars scenes that you would expect from a Star Wars film, such as great space sequences, great battle sequences, great lightsaber sequences, but then on top of that it just adds a lot of more innovative and new stuff, such as the opening sequence, which is a bit of a chase sequence across the city, which is really, really nice. Seeing Yoda involved in lightsaber battles was really, really nice as well. Seeing so many Jedis in one place had never really been done before, so that was really, really cool. And then on top of that, all of the romance scenes between Padme and Anakin Skywalker going to absolutely beautiful locations across the galaxy, again, hadn't been done before. And then going back to Tatooine, having a bit of a familiarity, seeing all of these new planets, brilliant new lightsaber sequences. For all of those reasons, I just feel like from a visuals point of view, Attack of the Clones is a brilliant entry. In terms of comparisons, as you can imagine, I really enjoyed Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I feel like it's a lot better than Episode 1. I feel like they really learnt their lessons in terms of not having wasted sequences, not having that much Jar Jar Binks in here, not having, all these boring speeder sequences, and instead they just added really cool space chase sequences instead, really had great lightsaber battles, really developed characters really, really well. And I feel like that's really one of the strengths of this film in terms of really being super character driven. Episode 3 is my favourite Star Wars film ever made, and I feel like Episode 2 really set the foundations to allow Episode 3 to be such a brilliant film. So I just feel like it's a real solid entry. It's a real shame that Attack of the Clones hasn't got as much love as it should do, because it's a really, really cool Star Wars film and it's definitely one of my favourite ones. Overall, I really enjoyed Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. I feel like it sets up Star Wars Episode 3 really well, and I feel like it learned a lot of lessons from Episode 1 in terms of having less politics, less Jar Jar Binks, being more fun, being more funny, being more action orientated, having the romance in there, having the bromance in there, having really funny sequences, setting up Darth Vader. For all of these reasons, I feel like it's such a solid entry, and it really tried new things and really pushed the boundaries, was really strong visually, really strong character-wise as well. Had two of my favourite characters, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, in there, and just really set relationships up and set the movie up for a brilliant third installment while still being a really solid entry in and of itself as well. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to give Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones a solid 7.5 out of 10. I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.